So you're living this life where music is central and it sort of drives your life, your schedule. Nothing's going to get in the way of this. What about church? What about Christianity? What about your own personal faith? Talk to me about that.
I feel like church was a part of our life. When we were in South Carolina, my parents actually started the first Korean church in the state of South Carolina sometime around 19 in the early 70s. It's ironic because I could not believe that you went to school in Columbia, South Carolina, and that's basically where I did all my growing up. Um, and I return nowadays, and I'll go into a Korean restaurant and kind of chat up the owner, and I'll say, I grew up here, and sometimes I'll ask, how many Korean churches are there now? And they'll say, oh, there are like 300 in Columbia alone. Korean churches are famous for splitting.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I did attend church, but it was more of a cultural exercise, kind of being with fellow Korean Americans, children of immigrants. And then we'd all go to somebody's house and everybody would play volleyball in the backyard and eat Korean food, barbecue. And so I kind of felt like I was on a mission to find God at some point, but I didn't quite understand what it meant to really be a believer. And then of course the illness and subsequent death of my mother was, gigantic. And I thought that was a moment where I finally understood, or somehow it kind of all fit together, but not really. So all these moments in my life, I kind of thought, oh, okay, now I'm a Christian. And then not really. And then I entered adulthood, and then I was starting to perform, and then I suddenly met my wife, and she grew up in like a Southern Baptist home, and very, very devout family. And I thought, oh, okay, this is the moment where I'm going to be able to look other people in the eye and say, oh yeah, I'm a Christian, I'm a believer, I'm a Christ follower. I mean, I didn't even know those words back then, and then not really. And then we tried having children, and unsuccessfully. And then I was trying to be a soloist and kind of trying to live out what everybody had told me was kind of a foregone conclusion my whole life. You're going to be a star like Itzhak Perlman or Yo-Yo Ma. And then we moved to Philadelphia, and my wife became pregnant, and the birth of our first child after this long journey. And I thought, oh, this is the moment. Not really. And then again, a year and a half later, my second child was born. And I thought, this is it, because this is the final child. Not really. And then where we live out on the main line of Philadelphia, there's a church called Church of the Savior, and kind of non-denominational. And they have a wonderful preschool there. And we had heard good things, so we were going to send our older Natalie there. And on the first day of parents' kind of orientation, I didn't even go. My wife went, and she came back and she said, guess what? I met this young Korean-American couple. They're from Philadelphia. They're missionaries. And their daughter is so cute, same age as Natalie. And they're going to be fellow parents of ours at Church of the Savior at Heritage School. And I've invited them for lunch. And I said, oh, really? Do I have to sit here and talk with these people like of stuff that I have no familiarity with? And she said, just say hello, and then you can go up to your office and do your work. And in walked Michael and Pearl O.
Oh.
And Michael is a preacher, and heads the Lausanne movement, which was founded
he's an amazing guy.
Yeah, founded by Billy Graham, and this worldwide movement to further the Great Commission. And they walked in the door, and within 30 seconds, I looked at him and I said, what are you doing? And he said, oh, I'm going to move my family to Japan in a few months. And we're going to start a theological seminary there because it's a very dark country. And I just found these words. I heard these words coming out of my mouth. Oh, what can I do to help? And he smiled at me and he said, well, I thought you'd never ask, or something like that. And we decided that we would rent out the Kimmel Center here, our concert hall here in Philadelphia, where the Philadelphia Orchestra plays, well, the small hall, and do a fundraiser. And even though for many, many years I had always thought, like other Christians that I had met, oh, I was saved on November 13th at 3 p.m. Like I thought it would be that. It wasn't. It was a month-long process of sitting in the car with Michael, or going to a hockey game, or going out to eat, or having a meeting with the team about how we're going to print the tickets. And then in the middle, I'd say, Michael, what does it mean? Why do people get baptized, or what? Like I would just keep asking questions. And during those months, I feel when I finally understood better the gospel, and perhaps understood that I could call myself a Christ follower.